We are now approaching the final stretch of the first half of August, and the Starship Flight 10 timeline has once again shifted. In the last update, Musk expressed confidence in a mid-August flight, which aligned with the initial launch window of August 16th as listed in the Navigation Center's Local Notice to Mariners, or LNM for short. That date, however, was later moved to the 22nd. Now, according to the latest update, the launch window has been pushed back yet again, this time from the 22nd to August 28th. This change means the previous LNM notice is likely no longer valid. Alongside this, a new navigation hazard update has been released, listing August 22nd and the 23rd as primary dates, with backup windows stretching from the 24th to the 28th. This clearly signals that the flight window has shifted to late August, which is later than many had anticipated. The change raises understandable concerns about the likelihood of a Starship flight this month. Any additional delays could push the mission into September, resulting in yet another month without a Starship launch. That said, there is still reason to believe an August flight remains possible, provided that the upcoming steps proceed smoothly. So why has this latest delay occurred? The most likely reason is related to further testing of Ship 37, or S-37. After completing two seemingly successful static fire campaigns, one for a single engine and another for a full complement of engines, SpaceX detected an issue that required replacing one of the Raptor vacuum engines. This kind of engine swap is no small task. It demands significant preparation, including reassembling the test infrastructure and rolling the ship back into position. Recent activity supports this explanation. The test stand has been reinstalled, and the booster quick disconnect to ship quick disconnect pipe has been purged, presumably to remove any debris or residual propellant. This indicates that the system has been reassembled properly. Scaffolding around the affected area has also been removed, suggesting that the engine replacement and associated work are now complete. With these steps in place, SpaceX appears ready to roll S-37 out for another test. This upcoming trial will mark the third static fire for the ship, which is more than usual. It is likely that SpaceX will opt for a full engine firing this time to ensure confidence in the vehicle. However, there is also a chance that they might conduct another single engine test, perhaps with a different sea-level Raptor, to fine-tune performance and maintain flexibility for the mission. Assuming the test occurs in the first half of the month, possibly after the 15th of August, S-37 would then return to Mega Bay 2 for final checks and integration work. This stage typically takes about a week to complete, which makes the original August 16th launch date unrealistic. Even in an ideal scenario, the timeline would push the earliest possible launch to well after the 20th, which is why the updated LNM reflects a later window. While this adjustment is later than the projections made back in July, it is important to maintain perspective. If we look back to the S-36 incident, a late August launch for S-37 is actually a remarkably fast turnaround. Meanwhile, B-16 is making steady progress. It has completed nearly all of its installations with the exception of the flight termination system, whose status remains uncertain. Once S-37's test campaign wraps up and the test stand is removed, B-16 can roll out without delay. In these challenging moments, show your support by saying, "I'm here." Then, like the video and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you the latest on SpaceX's remarkable development efforts. Preparations for systems beyond Flight 10 are now accelerating, signaling a wider push in SpaceX's Starship program. One of the most notable developments is the new BQD designed for the upcoming Starship version V3. This freshly revealed component has been installed on the cryogenic test stand at the Massey test site. Even at a glance, the scale of the system is striking. Its large size suggests it has been engineered to deliver more propellant to the super heavy V3, while also incorporating enhancements for improved reliability and long-term durability. This is not just a minor upgrade. It appears to be a significant step forward in supporting future high-performance boosters. The timing of this installation may seem rapid, but in reality, SpaceX is following a steady, logical sequence. The V1 boosters currently in operation, which are B16 and 17, have already passed their cryogenic testing. This means the next candidate for such trials will be B18, the very first V3 model. Assembly of B18 is well underway in the Mega Bay, with its fuel transfer tube already installed in recent updates. Based on this pace, B18 could be rolled out for testing before the end of this month. As for static fire testing, boosters are still expected to undergo those trials directly at the launch pad. With Pad 2 nearing operational readiness, test throughput will soon match what is achievable at Massey. For the ship variants, cryogenic and static fire tests will be handled at Massey once the site is fully operational again. A ship QD system for V3 will likely make an appearance in the near future. Currently, S-38 remains the only untested ship for static fires, and it may conduct its trials at Pad 1. Once that's done, SpaceX could immediately install the Ship QD V3 system, mirroring the approach taken for the booster hardware. The revival of the Massey test site marks a turning point. After overcoming previous setbacks, the facility is now positioned to enter a new, more capable era. Stronger, more efficient testing here could translate directly into more predictable and timely Starship launch schedules. Meanwhile, at Starbase, another development has caught attention. The large drill previously positioned at the planned Gigabay site has been moved to the location of the future Air Separation Unit, SpaceX's in-house fuel production facility. This move suggests two important things. First, drilling work for Gigabay is likely complete, paving the way for actual construction to begin. And second, groundwork for the ASU plant may already be underway. The ASU promises to usher in a phase of rapid propellant self-sufficiency for Starship, reducing reliance on external suppliers and enabling a faster launch cadence. All these changes point toward a period of significant advancement for the Starship program. Next, let us turn to the latest update regarding the Crew 10 undocking from the ISS. After a short delay caused by unfavorable weather conditions, Dragon Crew 10 officially undocked from the ISS at 6:15 p.m. Eastern on the 8th of August. As planned, the spacecraft proceeded through each phase of its return sequence. Dragon first completed a deorbit burn to slow its orbital velocity, followed by the separation of its trunk from the crew capsule. From there, the capsule began its guided descent toward Earth, culminating in a parachute-assisted landing off the coast of California. The targeted splashdown time for Crew 10 was set for 11:33 a.m. Eastern on the 9th. At the moment this update was prepared, Dragon had not yet splashed down. However, by the time you're watching or listening to this report, it is likely that the spacecraft has already made its safe return. Crew 10 launched on March 14th atop a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket and arrived at the ISS 2 days later. The mission carried a diverse and highly experienced crew: NASA astronauts Anne McClain and Nicole Ayers, JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov. McClain served as the mission commander, Ayers as the pilot, while Onishi and Peskov were mission specialists. Their replacements for 4 astronauts of Crew 11 arrived at the orbiting laboratory on the morning of the 2nd of August. The successful completion of Crew 10 will once again reinforce the reliability of SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft. To date, every Dragon crew mission has launched and landed successfully. Crew 11 now stands as Dragon's 19th crewed mission overall. With Crew 10, SpaceX has already completed 4 missions using the Endurance spacecraft, demonstrating its ability to reuse and extend the service life of its vehicles. In parallel, Crew 11's Endeavour has now flown 6 times, underscoring SpaceX's commitment to expanding the capabilities of each spacecraft in its fleet. Now shifting focus to another development in the space industry. ULA CEO Tory Bruno has revealed an ambitious goal for the company's Vulcan rocket program. While Vulcan has yet to fully prove itself operationally, ULA's leadership is signaling confidence in its future. So far, Vulcan has only launched twice in 2024. This upcoming August 12th will mark its 3rd mission, designated USSF-106, which will be the first flight after achieving certification. Despite this modest start, Bruno has stated that ULA is prepared for a significant ramp-up in launch cadence. According to him, we have a stockpile of both Atlases and Vulcans fully built, ready to fly. So that is another thing that sort of kicks up that confidence higher than it would have been, say, if you'd asked me a question like last year. There are 13 Atlases to go, all but the last 2 are fully finished and literally in storage, some at the Cape, some still back at Decatur, and those last 2 will be finished shortly. ULA's target is to reach a pace of 2 launches per month by the end of this year. It is not yet clear whether this projection includes Atlas V missions, but the goal extends through 2026 and beyond. Regarding Vulcan specifically, Bruno added, "We've got almost half a dozen Vulcans fabricated in storage waiting to go as well, and lots of SRMs up into the 40s. So that helps us with that." Beyond building rockets, ULA is also expanding its launch infrastructure. After losing SLC-37, the historic Delta IV Heavy pad, to SpaceX, ULA acquired SLC-3 in California. Bruno noted that this new complex is already 76% complete and is expected to receive certification by the end of the year. For ULA, speeding up Vulcan's operations is critical. The rocket has faced several delays, creating a growing backlog of high-priority missions. These include Amazon's Kuiper satellite constellation, military payloads for the National Security Space Launch Program, and the Dream Chaser spaceplane for Sierra Space. Although Atlas V continues to provide some support, its retirement is imminent. This means Vulcan must not only begin launching at a faster rate, but must also maintain a high launch volume to meet both contractual and strategic needs. However, despite these confident statements from Bruno, uncertainty remains about Vulcan's readiness and long-term reliability. This is why some in the industry view ULA's stated goals as extremely ambitious, perhaps even overly so. For now, the space community will be watching closely to see whether Vulcan can match the confidence of its leadership with tangible, sustained performance. Mid-2025 marks a critical juncture for Starship. With technical challenges still ahead, SpaceX is racing to expand pads, boost production, and secure rapid turnaround approvals to sustain an unprecedented launch rate through year's end. Ambition alone won't suffice. Success hinges on flawless execution across dozens of missions. How realistic is this plan? What preparations underpin it? And can SpaceX truly meet these targets? We are now in the second half of 2025. This year was expected to be a breakthrough period for SpaceX, and it began with promise. During the first half of the year, Starship flew 3 times, a record pace compared with prior years. Yet those flights fell short of expectations as the upper stage encountered several issues. Then, S-36 experienced an unexpected failure during testing, which slowed overall progress. That is why expectations for the second half of the year have been so high. In response, SpaceX returned Starship to testing far more quickly than many anticipated. First, the company built a new test stand at Pad A specifically for Starship static fires. Thanks to that rapid infrastructure upgrade, Ship 37 successfully completed its static fire test. With that test behind it, S-37 now moves into final inspections and installation of flight hardware. At the same time, S-37's companion booster, B-16, has awaited its final engine installations inside Mega Bay for several weeks. It is now nearly ready to roll out for mating with S-37. Musk recently hinted on social media that SpaceX is targeting a launch in mid-August. If the forthcoming inspection and installation steps take about a week to finish, that timeline remains within reach. While S-37 and Flight 10 preparations capture most of the attention, Flight 11 is already taking shape. S-38 has just completed its cryogenic test, the first major check in the static fire sequence. After that cryogenic proof, S-38 returned to Mega Bay 2 to receive its engines and install its flaps in advance of a full static fire. B-17, which completed its own cryogenic test back in April, will soon follow the same path. If everything proceeds smoothly, these prototypes will line up for consecutive tests at Pad A immediately after Flight 10 lifts off. Alternatively, S-38 might return to the Massey test site for its static fire once that infrastructure comes back online. In either case, the rapid progression of S-38 and B-17 shows that Flight 11 could launch as soon as September. Achieving back-to-back monthly flights would repeat a milestone SpaceX set last year with Flight 5 in October of 2024, followed by Flight 6 in November of the same year. It would also demonstrate the program's strong comeback after Ship 36's failure. After that incident, few believed Starship could return so quickly. Some even thought SpaceX would manage only one more flight all year. Yet the program has dispelled that skepticism. A successful follow-on test sequence would also offer a chance to break the existing turnaround record of 37 days between Flights 5 and 6. Setting a new benchmark would provide a solid foundation for an even more aggressive launch cadence going forward. But that pace is only half of SpaceX's vision for 2025. After these 2 flights, the company plans to move directly into production and testing of Starship V3. Musk has confirmed that a V3 launch will occur by the end of this year. Progress on V3 is already visible at Starbase. B-18 is nearing completion in the Super Heavy factory. One of its most notable upgrades is a new methane transfer tube, which will support orbital refueling. The forward section of B-18 also shows a redesigned hot staging ring, likely intended to improve interstage separation during flight. I expect B-18 to finish stacking within the next few weeks and then roll out for its own cryogenic test, potentially in August. Meanwhile, nose cones for Ship V3 have begun to appear in the Star Factory. Photos taken in early July revealed the first two cones, designated for ships 39 and 40, fitted with their forward flap attachment points. In recent updates, the S-39 cone even received its flap installation. This suggests that stacking of the first V3 pair could start in April. If S-37 departs Mega Bay 2 for Flight 10, that will free up space for S-39 and B-18 to come together. Following the first V3 pair, SpaceX will likely complete B-19 and S-40 before the year ends. With these two V3 pairs in hand, the company can look ahead to a more robust production rate in 2026, when dozens of Starships may be required to support Mars missions. Of course, production and launch are not the same. Even if the company completes 4 V3 prototypes this year, SpaceX may conduct only one V3 flight before 2026. That single flight will serve as an end-of-year test, laying the groundwork for a much higher cadence the following year. In the best-case scenario, SpaceX could achieve 3 more flights before New Year's Eve. Adding those to the 3 already completed would yield 6 flights in 2025, surpassing last year's total of 4. Hitting 6 flights in 1 year would give SpaceX even greater confidence as it plans for roughly 25 flights per year in the near term. When compared with other launch providers, such as Blue Origin's New Glenn or ULA's Vulcan, this level of pace and scale is staggering. SpaceX's progress is certain to capture the attention of competitors, customers, and partners alike, including NASA. With that in mind, do you think this ambitious scenario will come to pass? Let me know with a launch in the comment section down below. Then, like the video and subscribe to our channel to continuing following SpaceX's relentless development journey. It's well known that success in rapid launches depends on more than just flying often. Each mission must achieve its objectives to build confidence and make progress toward future goals. Flight 10 has a clear mandate: prove that both stages of the Starship system can complete their flight profiles end to end. That means Super Heavy must lift ship into space, separate cleanly, and then return safely to a landing either on a drone ship or back at the launch site. Ship must then re-enter Earth's atmosphere, survive the extreme heat of hypersonic descent, and touch down intact on the ocean or a landing pad. Super Heavy's ascent and separation have become routine, but the landing burn remains challenging. The booster must navigate precisely back to its landing target and reignite its engines for a controlled touchdown. This year, some boostback burns and landing burns have faltered, so Flight 10's booster, B-16, must demonstrate reliable control and engine performance. Ship faces its own array of challenges. Deploying payloads and relighting an engine in space are new requirements. In recent tests, SpaceX has focused on proving that an engine can restart in microgravity to adjust orbit or extend mission duration. On Flight 10, the chosen engine will need to execute that relight flawlessly. At the same time, ship must guard against leaks in its plumbing and maintain engine health throughout ascent, orbital operations, and re-entry preparations. Re-entry heating is the ultimate test of ship's heat shield system. Ceramic tiles and protective coatings must absorb and deflect temperatures above 1500 degrees Celsius while keeping the internal structure cool enough to support avionics and power systems. Any tile failure could compromise the entire vehicle. Composite overwrapped pressure vessels, or COPVs, also demand attention. A COPV failure led to the S-36 testing incident, and any remaining vulnerabilities must be eliminated. Flight 10 must show that COPVs can handle rapid pressure cycles during loading, ascent, and stage separation without leaking or rupturing. If Flight 10 succeeds, the focus will shift immediately to Flight 11. That mission will attempt another first, bringing ship home to the launch site and catching it with the Mechazilla arms on the tower. Completing that feat would mark a new era for orbital-class vehicles. In order to achieve that, both stages must perform at peak efficiency. Super Heavy on Flight 11 will need extra fuel margin to return to the landing site rather than a downrange drone ship. That implies upgrades to B-17, including optimized thrust burns and lighter structure to reserve propellant. Ship itself will need to complete a full orbit of Earth. Relighting the engine in space will be crucial to raise its perigee and guide it toward the landing site. The vehicle's heat shield must withstand not 1 but 2 harsh reentries, first from its parking orbit and again for the final descent. That double duty tests both thermal protection and active cooling systems more severely than any prior flight. Finally, the ship must be caught cleanly by the Mechazilla arms. Guarding against misalignment, tower arm timing errors, or residual deflection from reentry stresses will require perfect coordination between ground controllers and vehicle guidance. If SpaceX succeeds in Flight 11, it will have proven the first complete reuse cycle for both stages in a single mission profile. Ship is the vehicle that actually carries cargo and people, so its safe return is even more significant than catching the booster alone. A successful tower catch of Ship would demonstrate the full promise of rapid reusability. Of course, these plans assume Flight 10 meets its objectives. If Flight 10 falls short, SpaceX may transfer remaining tasks to Flight 11. The team hopes to avoid that scenario. A perfect catch of Ship on the last flight of version 2 would inspire greater confidence as the program transitions to version 3. Flight 10 or perhaps Flight 13 will likely serve as the debut for Starship V3. That flight will test new hardware. The redesigned Raptor 3 engines, updated grid fins for improved aerodynamic control, a revised hot stage ring for Super Heavy, and enhanced heat shield materials for Ship. While the debut will focus on a complete flight profile, it may sidestep the highest risk tasks. For example, Megazilla catching might be postponed until V3 has proven its basic flight, so that more attention can go to the new components. Ultimately, V3's initial mission requirements will depend on the outcomes of the two final V2 flights. A flawless Flight 10 and a successful Flight 11 will clear the path for an ambitious V3 debut. Conversely, any unresolved issues will inform adjustments before the new version takes to the pad. In any case, this sequence of flights, 10, 11, and the V3 debut, must all succeed to keep Starship on course for its eventual goals, which are lunar missions, Mars cargo runs, and beyond. Each success lays the foundation for the next. Let us watch closely, because the next few launches will define Starship's future for years to come. Indeed, we are clearly in a thrilling period for SpaceX and its Starship program. The months ahead will serve as a vital preparation period for 2026, when the race for space will intensify and a number of landmark missions are scheduled to take place. During this preparatory phase, every aspect of the program, such as production, testing, and launch operations, will accelerate. New records may be set, and possibilities once thought out of reach will move within view. For aerospace enthusiasts like you and me, this is an exciting time to follow every development. However, speed alone is not enough. Success on each mission is the true measure of progress. The results of flights during this period will matter more than ever because they will shape SpaceX's next moves and establish the standards the company must meet. As SpaceX races through the second half of 2025, every launch becomes more than a test. It's a step toward transforming spaceflight. With Flight 10 on the horizon and version 3 on deck, the coming months will reveal whether Starship can meet its promise of rapid reusability and orbital dominance. The countdown has begun. Not just to the next launch, but to a new era in space exploration. We're going full swing today as SpaceX has wrapped final tests for Flight 10, though signs suggest something may have gone wrong. Is a launch this month still on the table? Meanwhile, ULA has flown its first official Vulcan mission nearly a year after the test flight, and just minutes earlier than that, Arianespace finally launched its long-delayed Ariane 6. Could this be a great day for Bezos' Amazon? In the previous update, Ship 37 officially arrived at Pad 1 and was lifted onto the test stand for the second time in just 2 weeks. This move followed the recent engine swap and was intended to carry out the next phase of testing. Earlier, I pointed out clear indications that S-37 would likely not undergo a static fire test during this round of trials, and so far, this has proven correct. On August 12th, the testing sequence began. The scaffolding, crew lift, and Raptor work stand were gradually lowered and cleared from the area. This was followed by smaller checks, including the detonation suppression system, and a flap test. Soon after, venting activity increased both at the orbital launch mount and at the tank farm, signaling preparations for propellant loading. Liquid oxygen began to fill the vehicle, and a frost line became visible along the liquid oxygen tank. However, before any engine-related procedures could begin, the detanking process took place. This suggests that a minor issue may have arisen during the preparations. As a result, the testing concluded at the cryogenic level, stopping short of a spin prime test. For reference, a spin prime test runs fuel through the engines without ignition. This process verifies the precision of the propellant delivery system, checks for leaks or blockages, and assesses engine stability and performance before moving to ignition level testing. Fortunately, the next attempt is expected soon, as the testing window remains open for an extended period. By the time you watch this, that attempt may already be underway or even completed. Spin prime tests typically require less time than static fires, so once conditions are set, the procedure should be completed swiftly. If the results are satisfactory, SpaceX will likely roll S-37 back to Megabay 2 for final inspections and installation within roughly a week. In parallel, the test stand could be removed, paving the way for B-16 to make its move to the pad. Given the pace of these developments, an August flight remains a strong possibility. Share your own predictions for the launch date in the comments. In addition to the ongoing preparations for Flight 10, other parts of Starbase are also showing steady and notable progress. One area that is particularly active right now is the production site. A large portion of this space has been excavated, giving us a clearer view of both the location and the scale of the upcoming structure that will soon rise here. Within the cleared area, numerous steel piles have been positioned and many concrete blocks are now in place. The site is bustling with workers, and trucks are arriving and leaving almost continuously. This is most likely the initial foundation work for a major new facility. Based on the pace of activity, the foundation could be completed as early as September. Once this stage is finished, the framing, walls, and roofing are expected to follow in quick succession. What stands out is that this new construction is not located directly on the footprint of the former high bay. Instead, it sits much closer to the Star Factory and positioned directly across from the entrance of Megabay 2. At first, this placement led me to question whether the project was actually the long-anticipated Gigabay. However, no other facility type seems to fit this scale and location as well as the Gigabay would. If it is indeed the Gigabay, its orientation will differ from the high bay, with its door facing toward Megabay 2. This would align all the assembly bays toward a central point, potentially streamlining the transfer of hardware from the Star Factory. The trade-off is that the front yard space for these bays could become much tighter, which might create congestion as prototype numbers grow. It could also make camera monitoring of activity in this area more challenging. Only time will confirm if this indeed will become the Gigabay, but the intensity of the work is a strong hint. Meanwhile, there is also progress at SpaceX's fuel production site, specifically at the Air Separation Unit, or ASU for short. The drilling rig that was moved here recently has been raised, indicating that operations are about to begin. This drilling will likely be used for site surveying and marking, followed by support for cranes to excavate the ground and prepare the foundation for the plant. Building the ASU and the associated fuel production facilities will take considerably longer than most other structures at Starbase. A realistic estimate places completion at roughly 1 year from now. Once operational, however, the facility will allow Starbase to achieve rapid fuel self-sufficiency, eliminating the delays and costs of long-distance fuel transport. This capability will be crucial, especially from next year onward, when the frequency of Starship launches is expected to increase significantly. We will have to wait and see how exactly these developments unfold, but the pace suggests that major transformations are on the horizon for Starbase. Now let us turn our attention to another major development in the space industry, the latest launch of ULA's Vulcan Centaur. After a gap of nearly a year, more than 10 months since its second flight specifically, ULA successfully carried out its third Vulcan Centaur mission. This launch marked a significant milestone for the rocket as it was the first official military payload mission since the Vulcan received its launch certification. The mission took place on the 12th of August at 8:56 p.m. Eastern from Space Launch Complex 41 in Florida. Vulcan lifted off carrying a U.S. military payload under the designation USSF-106, part of the NSSL, or National Security Space Launch Phase 2 program. From the initial countdown through liftoff and ascent, the pre-flight and in-flight procedures appeared to proceed smoothly, with no anomalies reported after the mission's completion. For this mission, the payload was placed into a geosynchronous orbit, which required additional thrust. To achieve this, Vulcan was equipped with 4 solid rocket boosters. According to ULA, this was one of the longest missions in the company's history, lasting approximately 7 hours to deliver its payload to an altitude exceeding 35,000 kilometers above Earth. Details about the payload remain limited as expected for a military mission. However, it has been revealed that this was the first experimental navigation satellite launched by the U.S. military in nearly half a century. The satellite is a position, navigation, and timing spacecraft, a class of satellites that provide data similar in function to the Global Positioning System, more commonly known as GPS. The primary contractor for the PNT payload was L3 Harris Technologies, which integrated it onto a satellite bus built by Northrop Grumman. According to Andrew Bilta of L3 Harris, This satellite, known publicly as Navigation Technology Satellite 3 or NTS-3, will test a number of experimental technologies aimed at improving resilience against jamming and spoofing. These threats have become increasingly concerning for both military operations and commercial satellite services. NTS-3 is equipped with a phased array antenna capable of focusing powerful beams toward ground forces, even in environments where GPS jamming is prevalent. This will allow the spacecraft to evaluate how effectively its advanced signal technologies can maintain service in hostile conditions. Additionally, the satellite incorporates a reprogrammable software architecture, which means it can be updated and adapted while in orbit. Built to describe this capability as truly game-changing, offering flexibility to respond to emerging challenges without waiting for a replacement satellite to be launched. For Vulcan and ULA, this mission represents a strong step forward after a challenging introduction period marked by technical delays and setbacks. The successful completion of USSF 106 demonstrates that previous issues have been addressed, and it positions Vulcan to accelerate into a busier launch schedule. Upcoming missions include additional military and government payloads, Amazon's Project Kuiper satellites, and Sierra Space's Dream Chaser spacecraft. Many of these assignments were delayed due to Vulcan's earlier problems, creating a backlog that ULA is now eager to clear. ULA's leadership appears confident about the future. CEO Tori Bruno recently stated that the company plans to ramp up significantly toward the end of this year and maintain that momentum into the years ahead. While 2026 is expected to be a particularly busy period, ULA has already begun stockpiling rocket components to meet the anticipated demand. However, Vulcan still faces some notable challenges. It relies on Blue Origin's BE-4 engines, which are also slated for use in Blue Origin's own New Glenn rocket. Competition for production capacity could become a factor as both rockets move toward more frequent launches. Moreover, Vulcan remains an expendable vehicle, which may prove to be a disadvantage in an industry increasingly moving toward reusability. In the long term, cost efficiency and turnaround time will be critical, especially as ULA contends with internal pressures and speculation about a potential sale of the company. With its recent success, Vulcan has proven its capability. The real question is whether it can sustain momentum and remain competitive in a rapidly evolving launch market. The next months will reveal whether ULA can deliver on its ambitious schedule. The question for now is simple. Will Vulcan fly again before the year ends? The answer could shape its trajectory in the years to come. That being said, on the 12th of August, the aerospace industry marked not just one, but two notable rocket launches, and the latter of them being the much-anticipated third flight of Ariane 6. Just like ULA's Vulcan Centaur, Ariane 6's latest mission was also its third flight, and interestingly, it lifted off only 19 minutes before Vulcan. At precisely 8:37 p.m. Eastern, Ariane 6 departed from Europe's spaceport in Kourou, French Guiana, carrying a highly advanced weather and climate satellite into orbit. The payload for this mission was METOP SGA-1, a sizable 8,900-pound or 4,040-kilogram spacecraft built by Airbus Defence and Space. It'll be operated by EUMETSAT, or the European Organization for the Exploitation of Meteorological Satellites, an international partnership dedicated to delivering crucial meteorological and climate data. This satellite will play a key role in global weather forecasting, climate monitoring, and environmental data collection. The mission proceeded without incident, with no anomalies reported from liftoff through orbital insertion. According to Arianespace, this launch was the company's 355th overall. It also marked the 15th EUMETSAT spacecraft delivered to orbit by Arianespace and the 21st meteorological satellite in the company's history. Alongside Ariane 6, Arianespace continues to operate the smaller Vega C rocket, giving them flexibility to serve a wide range of missions. The success of this flight suggests that Ariane 6 has moved past the issues encountered during previous missions. However, the question remains whether Arianespace can scale up its launch cadence in the near future, a challenge that will be crucial in meeting customer demands. The significance of Ariane 6's progress extends beyond Europe. When paired with Vulcan's recent successful flight, the back-to-back launches from two of Amazon's Kuiper program partners signal encouraging momentum. Amazon had originally selected Vulcan, Ariane 6, and Blue Origin's New Glenn to deploy its Kuiper broadband constellation. Yet delays to all three rockets forced Amazon to purchase additional launches from SpaceX, an ironic twist given that SpaceX's Starlink directly competes with Kuiper in the satellite internet market. If Vulcan and Ariane 6 can maintain consistent operations, Amazon could see its Kuiper deployment accelerate. Still, current launch rates remain insufficient for the company's ambitious rollout, meaning its partners will need to quicken the pace. For now, the industry will be watching closely to see whether these rockets can turn isolated successes into sustained, high-frequency operations in the months ahead. No launch this year. Sierra Space's Dream Chaser is facing growing delays, and its once promising potential is beginning to fade. These setbacks leave Dream Chaser at a clear disadvantage, especially as SpaceX's Dragon continues to dominate. This year highlighting that contrast more than ever. What caused this decline? And could Dream Chaser face the same fate as Boeing's troubled Starliner? Dream Chaser has long been one of the most anticipated spacecraft in the industry. With its sleek spaceplane design and promising technical capabilities, it represents a bold departure from traditional capsule-based spacecraft and has been seen by many as a potential competitor to well-established vehicles like Boeing's Starliner and SpaceX's Dragon. However, despite years of anticipation and development, Dream Chaser has still not made its first flight. And based on the latest updates, it appears that this situation may persist for quite some time. A recent statement shared on X by Dana Weigel, the ISS program manager, shed light on Dream Chaser's current progress.
On average, it takes 8 to 10 years for a spacecraft to get ready and fly. We still have some of our integrated safety reviews to do, and we're in the process with updating both of our schedules to try to understand where does that really put us. And so Sierra's working on that, and so I need to wait and just get information back from them to see where they think some of that work lines out. But we are looking forward to having them flying. They're a berthing vehicle, as you know, so that's helpful for us to have dissimilar capabilities in terms of our ports and our logistics. So we will be ready for them when they're ready to fly.
While NASA remains publicly supportive, Weigel's comments suggest that even the agency is unsure when Dream Chaser will be ready to launch. Now that we are well into the second half of 2025, the likelihood of Dream Chaser flying before the end of the year appears increasingly slim. One factor contributing to this uncertainty is the status of the Vulcan Centaur rocket, which Dream Chaser depends on for its launch. At the time of this update, Vulcan is scheduled to carry out the USSF-106 mission on the 12th of August. This mission was previously delayed due to Vulcan's own developmental challenges, and it is now taking priority due to its importance in achieving national security launch certification. As a result, Dream Chaser continues to wait. This reflects an ongoing scheduling mismatch between Dream Chaser and Vulcan Centaur. When Vulcan was ready, Dream Chaser had not completed its required tests. Now, even as Dream Chaser makes progress, Vulcan's limited availability and backlog of missions continue to push its launch further down the line. If USSF-106 launches successfully, Vulcan will likely proceed with other delayed missions under the National Security Space Launch Program. If the mission fails, the delay will grow even longer. And if Vulcan encounters further problems, it may not fly again this year at all. But not all of the delay can be blamed on external factors. As Dana Weigel also pointed out, Dream Chaser itself still faces hurdles. He acknowledged that the Sierra Space team is putting in tremendous effort, but emphasized the challenges of building a brand new spacecraft. One of the most significant obstacles is software certification, which is critical for flight safety and mission success. Unlike a mechanical issue, software challenges can be much more complex to diagnose and resolve, requiring rigorous testing and verification before the vehicle can be cleared to fly. This situation mirrors what Boeing's Starliner has experienced, albeit in a different technical area. Starliner has faced multiple hardware and performance setbacks, including problems with thruster systems and helium leaks. Dream Chaser, in contrast, has had a relatively successful testing phase in terms of its physical systems. But the software challenges it is facing are no less serious and could impact its readiness timeline just as heavily. As a result, Dream Chaser is set to experience yet another year without a launch. This delay is especially concerning given the shrinking timeline for meaningful participation in ISS operations. The ISS is steadily approaching the end of its operational life, and any new vehicle that hopes to support it must fly soon to play a meaningful role. Missing this window not only limits Dream Chaser's relevance, but also deprives Sierra Space of the opportunity to contribute to a historic era of spaceflight. This brings us to the inevitable comparison with Boeing's Starliner. Both vehicles were expected to challenge the dominance of SpaceX's Dragon, but neither has yet made a significant impact. While Dream Chaser still has potential and arguably fewer flight test failures than Starliner, the long delays are placing it on a similar path. However, Dream Chaser does have some reasons to remain optimistic. Its testing history has been more stable, and its innovative design continues to draw support from within NASA and the broader aerospace community. If Sierra Space can overcome the remaining hurdles, particularly the software issues, the vehicle still has a chance to become a reliable and competitive spacecraft. So, what do you think? Will Dream Chaser fall into the same uncertain future as Starliner? Let us know by answering yes or no in the comment section down below, and then be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel as we continue to follow SpaceX's remarkable journey and the evolving landscape of space exploration. What we have just discussed is actually only the beginning. In the longer term, many more missions await Dream Chaser, each one representing a significant step forward in the evolution of this unique spaceplane program. Following the first prototype, named Tenacity, Sierra Space is also developing a second cargo prototype known as Reverence. This second vehicle is expected to launch on the next mission after Tenacity, which will likely take place around 2027. After these two cargo variants, a crewed version of Dream Chaser is expected to follow. This crew prototype is also projected to make its debut around 2027 and is planned to support missions to the ISS. This timeline highlights how critical the success of the initial mission will be, both as a technological milestone and as a necessary step toward future operations. However, the ISS is not the only destination on Dream Chaser's horizon. Sierra Space is also working on the Life Habitat, a large inflatable module designed to support long-duration missions in low Earth orbit and beyond. Whether Sierra Space will continue its partnership with Blue Origin on the Orbital Reef Space Station project or pursue an independent path remains to be seen. Regardless of the path forward, Sierra Space will continue to rely on external launch providers, since it does not currently have its own launch vehicle. In this context, the Dream Chaser spacecraft plays a crucial role in reducing Sierra Space's reliance on other cargo or crew spacecraft. Dream Chaser still holds immense potential. It has also earned support from major organizations, including NASA. More than any other agency, NASA benefits from having multiple flight-proven vehicles capable of carrying out both cargo and crewed missions. By having more than one reliable option, NASA can reduce its dependence on any single provider, thereby increasing operational flexibility and mission assurance. Dream Chaser's success would not only diversify the U.S.'s spacecraft fleet, but would also strengthen its competitiveness against space programs from other nations. Beyond scheduling issues, Dream Chaser possesses a wide range of advantages. Its spaceplane design sets it apart from conventional capsules. The wings can fold during launch, allowing it to fit more securely inside the rocket fairing. After completing its mission, it lands on a conventional runway like a commercial aircraft. This type of return is more controlled than splashdowns at sea, allowing for quicker access to cargo and easier refurbishment for reflight. Its payload capabilities are also comparable to traditional spacecraft, and it offers additional flexibility with its attachable Shooting Star cargo module. Dream Chaser also holds symbolic value. Inspired by the legacy of the space shuttle, it taps into a deep cultural and historical connection to American space exploration. This connection gives it a level of inspiration and excitement that resonates with the public and spaceflight enthusiasts alike. But to unlock and fully realize these capabilities, Dream Chaser must first succeed in its inaugural flight. That first step will open the door to future missions, broader applications, and greater independence for Sierra Space and the wider space industry. Whether they can accomplish this in the near term remains to be seen. For now, we will have to wait just a little longer to find out. Back to the present, the ongoing challenges faced by Dream Chaser only serve to highlight the unmatched dominance of SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft, especially throughout this year. Since its debut in 2019, Dragon has become a trusted and dependable workhorse for both NASA and the broader U.S. space program. To date, it has completed 19 crewed missions with a flawless success rate, alongside more than 30 cargo resupply missions to the ISS. This level of reliability has made it NASA's go-to spacecraft, not only for regular operations, but also for contingency support when other systems fall short. One of Dragon's greatest strengths lies in its flexibility. With 5 active spacecraft in its fleet, Dragon offers a level of readiness that allows NASA and commercial partners to plan and execute missions with confidence. Whether for government-led initiatives or private sector endeavors, Dragon is always prepared to fly. This year, Dragon has once again proven its value. It has already completed 4 crewed missions and 2 cargo flights, cementing its role as the backbone of ISS logistics. At present, it is the only operational vehicle servicing the station. Starliner, Boeing's crew capsule, is unlikely to fly again before early 2026. Even after completing the crew flight test 1, the spacecraft experienced multiple setbacks, including helium leaks and thruster failures. These issues remain under investigation, and there is no clear indication yet that Boeing has identified a definitive solution. As a result, the delays have not only disrupted NASA's mission planning, but have also strained Boeing's financial position. Similarly, Northrop Grumman's Cygnus cargo spacecraft has experienced transportation-related setbacks, leading to indefinite delays. Meanwhile, Dream Chaser has yet to fly its first mission, leaving Dragon as the only fully operational and flight-proven option in NASA's arsenal. Dragon's reliability is not only consistent, it continues to evolve. Originally certified for up to 5 flights per spacecraft, the recent Crew 11 mission featured the Endeavour vehicle completing its 6th flight, proving that the platform's durability exceeds expectations. This extends Dragon's lifespan, saves costs, and adds even more value for NASA. Looking ahead, Dragon is also expected to play a crucial role in the final phase of the ISS by assisting in de-orbit operations, reinforcing its importance from start to finish. In conclusion, it is no exaggeration to say that this year has clearly demonstrated the overwhelming dominance and influence of the Dragon spacecraft. If competitors like Dream Chaser and Starliner do not accelerate their progress soon, it is very likely that Dragon's reign will continue well into the years ahead. Indeed, a challenging road still lies ahead for Dream Chaser. Once full of promise, the spaceplane is now on track to miss yet another year without flying. Internal delays and external setbacks continue to stall progress, while SpaceX's Dragon pulls further ahead with unmatched reliability and momentum. Yet, despite the setbacks, Dream Chaser still holds real potential. Its runway landings, rapid reusability, and crew and cargo flexibility offer clear advantages over traditional capsules, features that could reshape mission planning for NASA and commercial partners alike. But everything hinges on one milestone: the first flight. Long delayed, that mission is now critical. Each passing month without launch raises pressure on Sierra Space to prove Dream Chaser is more than a concept. Its debut must demonstrate not just capability, but readiness for future missions and investment. This flight will define Dream Chaser's future. It must convert years of development into performance, or risk falling further behind as Dragon continues to lead. All eyes are now on liftoff. Until then, the countdown continues.
3、2、1，点火！
Uh-oh, China could achieve a breakthrough on the moon within just a few years. They've already completed a crewed lunar lander demo detailing their mission plans. Meanwhile, SpaceX and NASA remain on track with their own lunar goals. How ambitious was China's test, and how will SpaceX and NASA respond? The United States was the undisputed victor of the original moon race in the 20th century, achieving the first human landing on the lunar surface in 1969 and completing 6 crewed missions before the program ended in 1972. More than half a century later, America finds itself once again at the forefront of a new lunar race, this time led by NASA's Artemis program, with strong contributions from commercial partners such as SpaceX. But unlike the Cold War era, the United States was no longer facing the Soviet Union. Instead, its primary challenger is China, a nation rapidly advancing its space capabilities and openly declaring its intention to send astronauts to the moon before the decade's end. China has set an ambitious goal to complete its first crewed lunar landing by 2030 and to establish a permanent base on the moon in the years that follow. This isn't a vague aspiration. It's a tightly coordinated plan involving simultaneous development of multiple critical systems, from launch vehicles to crewed spacecraft to lunar landers. And just days ago, China demonstrated one of the most significant milestones yet on the path to achieving it. On August 6th, the China National Space Administration released a video showcasing the landing and takeoff test of its Lanyue lunar lander. This is the spacecraft that will carry Chinese astronauts to the surface of the moon and bring them back to lunar orbit during their first crewed mission. The test took place on an elaborate ground-based structure, a framework of towering steel columns supporting a large red ring at its center. Cables extended from the ring to secure the lander, allowing engineers to simulate lunar gravity conditions while testing engine performance. During the demonstration, the Lanyue emitted a distinct plume of yellow-brown exhaust, likely from hypergolic propellants, which ignite on contact and are valued for their reliability in the vacuum of space, despite their high toxicity. The test sequence included firing 2 large main thrusters along with smaller side-mounted thrusters to mimic both the powered descent to the moon's surface and the subsequent ascent back into orbit. In addition to live test footage, CNSA presented a detailed computer-generated animation illustrating how the Lanyue will operate during an actual mission. The animation depicted the lander's orbital approach, powered descent, touchdown, surface operations, and ascent, matching the procedures demonstrated during the ground test. The agency declared the test a success, with CNSA Watcher posting, "Congratulations! China achieves key milestone in moon exploration with successful landing and takeoff test of lunar lander, a first for the country on an extraterrestrial body." The Lanyue lander is part of a 3-element architecture that includes China's new Long March 10 rocket and the Mengzhou crew spacecraft. The mission plan calls for 2 Long March 10 launches. The first will carry the crew aboard Mengzhou into lunar orbit, and the second will deliver the Lanyue lander to await their arrival. The astronauts will then transfer from Mengzhou into the Lanyue to send to the lunar surface for their mission, later to orbit to rejoin Mengzhou for the journey back to Earth. This mission profile bears similarities to NASA's Artemis plan, which will see astronauts launched aboard the Orion spacecraft and transferred to a separate human landing system, in this case, SpaceX's Starship HLS, for the final leg to the lunar surface. The key difference is that HLS integrates cargo, crew transport, and landing into a single vehicle, whereas China is using a more traditional 2-vehicle approach reminiscent of Apollo, though with modernized systems. Visually, the Lanyue features a horizontal configuration with 4 robust fixed landing legs designed for stability on the moon's uneven terrain. Solar panels on both the lander and the Mengzhou spacecraft will provide supplemental power for extended operations. The interface between the 2 spacecraft incorporates multiple docking motors for secure crew transfer in orbit. This recent test is not an isolated achievement, but part of a steady series of milestones in China's lunar program. Just 2 months earlier, the Mengzhou spacecraft completed an abort test to verify crew safety in the event of a launch emergency. That trial demonstrated successful capsule separation, parachute deployment, and a safe landing aided by an airbag system. And in a possible sign of accelerating timelines, leaked images have emerged showing what appears to be a full-scale Long March 10 booster ready for static fire testing. The design features 21 YF-100K engines in the first stage, 7 in the central core, and 7 in each of the 2 side boosters, suggesting that China's heavy lift capability is nearing operational status. China's progress in space exploration over the past 2 decades has been both deliberate and ambitious. It became the first nation to land a rover on the moon's far side in 2019, and in 2020, its Chang'e 5 mission is successfully returned lunar samples to Earth, the first such mission since the 70s. These accomplishments have laid the groundwork for even larger goals, including the planned International Lunar Research Station, which China aims to develop in partnership with Russia and other nations. This base, envisioned as a permanently crewed facility, would mark a historic leap in sustained human presence beyond Earth. From an engineering and program management perspective, China is advancing on all fronts. Rocket development, spacecraft testing, and lander design are progressing in parallel, ensuring that no single element becomes bottleneck for the mission. This integrated approach mirrors strategies used in the Apollo program and, more recently, by SpaceX in its rapid Starship iteration cycles. By building all major components in-house or through tightly controlled partnerships, China is ensuring both technological sovereignty and a streamlined development pipeline. For the U.S., these developments cannot be ignored. NASA's Artemis program is on track for a crewed lunar landing no earlier than 2027, with Starship HLS playing a central role. But technical delays, budgetary pressures, and the complexity of integrating multiple contractors could all pose risks to the schedule. Meanwhile, China's lunar program benefits from centralized decision-making, sustained political support, and a clear, publicly stated deadline. In a competitive race where perception is as important as actual timelines, China's recent achievements signal that the U.S. is no longer running unopposed. The stakes in this new lunar competition extend beyond national pride. The moon offers strategic advantages for science, technology, and even geopolitical influence. From potential resources such as water ice in permanently shadowed craters to the possibility of using the moon as a staging ground for Mars missions, whoever establishes a long-term presence there will shape the future of human space exploration. For the U.S., maintaining leadership will require not just meeting Artemis deadlines, but also sustaining momentum through subsequent missions, infrastructure development, and partnerships with international allies. China's Lan Yue underscores that this is not a symbolic race. It is a serious, well-funded, and technically capable effort to challenge U.S. dominance in space. The successful demonstration of lunar landing and takeoff capabilities represents a major leap forward, bringing China one step closer to placing its astronauts on the moon for the first time. So the question remains, how concerned should the world be? On a scale of 1 to 5, is this a mild curiosity, a moderate challenge, or a genuine strategic rivalry? Given China's pace of achievement and its clearly defined end goals, many would argue it's edging toward the higher end of the scale. And as history has shown, in the race for the moon, the gap between almost ready and first to land can close much faster than expected. That's when we must look closely at what NASA and its partners, especially SpaceX, are doing. For now, the U.S. still maintains an edge over China in the new lunar race. Decades of experience from the continuous landings of the last century give the U.S. a head start, with its timelines for a crewed landing and moon-based construction still preceding China's plans. In terms of concrete progress, NASA has already completed Artemis 1, an uncrewed mission completed Artemis 1, an uncrewed mission that circled the moon. If all goes well, Artemis 2, following a similar trajectory but carrying astronauts, could launch as soon as early 2026. Preparations are already underway, with components for the Space Launch System in place and the crew undergoing tests aboard the Orion spacecraft. Yet, concerns remain, especially over Artemis 3, the program's first planned crewed lunar landing. The Artemis roadmap is already behind schedule, with both Artemis 2 and 3 delayed from their original timelines. Artemis 2's postponement stems from setbacks with SLS, Orion, and issues identified during Artemis 1. For 3, those same challenges persist, compounded by the ticking clock. Unless the SLS and Orion are fully ready in time, further slippage could be inevitable. NASA's SLS, Orion, and even the mobile launcher have long faced criticism for being costly, slow to develop, and plagued by design inefficiencies. Their long-term sustainability is uncertain, especially after appearing in proposed NASA budget cuts. Efforts to keep them alive are ongoing, but their future remains fragile. Then there's the most anticipated and arguably most uncertain part of Artemis 3, SpaceX's HLS. Thus far, progress has been less convincing. A fully integrated prototype has yet to appear, and despite 9 Starship flights, the vehicle has not demonstrated complete success in fundamental operations. Key capabilities essential to Artemis 3, such as deploying payloads, reigniting engines in space, landing the second stage, and operating the orbital refueling system, remain unproven. Given this context, it's understandable why apprehension is mounting. The mission could be less than 2 years away, yet major technical milestones still lie ahead, and yet both NASA and SpaceX express strong confidence. Recent statements from interim NASA Administrator Sean Duffy and SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell assert that Starship HLS will be ready in time for Artemis 3's current schedule. The optimism is not without basis. SpaceX has already completed elevator testing for HLS, and newly released images reveal the airlock area and crew cabin layout. While numerous challenges remain, each of them has already been identified through earlier test flights. SpaceX's task now is focused execution, solving known issues rather than discovering new ones. The timeline from late this year through Artemis 3's launch window could see a dramatic acceleration. SpaceX plans up to 25 Starship flights from Starbase next year alone, with continuous upgrades expanding both Starbase and Florida launch infrastructure. These developments combined with an increasingly refined vehicle design suggest a rapid march toward readiness. With tangible progress in place and reassurances from one of the aerospace industry's most trusted leaders, Gwynne Shotwell, there is still reason to believe the U.S., through NASA and SpaceX, can return humans to the moon before China's first crewed attempt. And should Artemis 3 succeed, the advantage will extend beyond that historic landing. The U.S. would hold the initiative in the next phase of exploration, establishing a sustainable lunar base, positioning itself to lead this new era of human presence on the moon. The moon race, though still far from its climax, is already proving proving to be a compelling contest of ambition and capability. China continues to demonstrate a methodical approach, steadily advancing through each stage of preparation for its eventual crewed lunar mission. Yet the uncertainty remains, will they accelerate unexpectedly, perhaps even arriving ahead of schedule? This possibility keeps the pressure high on NASA and SpaceX. Confidence alone is not enough. They must act with greater speed and determination, turning plans into tangible progress. The years ahead will be decisive as each side unveils bold and perhaps even audacious moves in pursuit of lunar glory. This has been Kevin with Great SpaceX. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already to stay up to date with yours truly on the latest milestones in SpaceX's journey. Thank you so much for watching, and always remember, curiosity, imagination, and inspiration will follow you so long as you keep looking up.